Hi, everyone. How are you? Miss Carol here. Do you hear the music? Do you know what that means? It's mean for us to have another story time together. So let's go in our tent. See, we're here in our Oasis room. We'll go through. See everything here. The walls. Get our cushions. It's nice and comfy. Get situated. Find a nice, comfortable spot. Are you ready?
It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood, a
Or in the
beautiful day for a
classroom that we're
neighbor.
in.
Would you be mine? Could you be mine? It's a neighborly day in this beauty wood, a neighborly day for a beauty. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? I have always wanted to have a neighbor just like you. I've always wanted to live in a neighborhood with you, so let's make the most of this beautiful
It
day.
is beautiful outside.
Since we're together,
nice inside
we might
here.
as well say, would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor? Won't you please? Won't you please? Please won't you be my neighbor?
Are you ready? The story today that I want to share to you is a very important story. I was first told about this book by a friend of mine, Mary Lawrence, here at church, and she said this book changed her life. So she loaned me her copy, and I agreed with her. Reading that book made a big difference on the way I saw things, and it helped me see things in a more godly manner and how I treat other people just because they look different than me, because everyone has a purpose. So the book is called Same Kind of Different as Me. And I was so excited when I went online to order my own copy to find out they also had a children's version. So I'd like to share that story with you. Same Kind of Different as Me. Everyone can help somebody. And it's written by Ron Hall and Denver Moore. And that's who the story is about. The story is about a little boy by the name of Denver who grew up very poor, and he didn't get to go to school because he worked on a plantation, but he wished for more in his life. As time passed, Denver decided to hop on a train to the big city for a different life. But that life was difficult, and Denver spent many years as a homeless man. This is a true story. But God showed his love through two unexpected people who were very different from Denver, and his life was forever changed. So let's read the story and find out how his life was changed by just two people and with God. This is a quote from Denver Moore. I used to spend a lot of time worrying that I was different from other people, but I found out everybody's different, the same kind of different as me. Not too many years ago, American people were struggling. That time was called the Great Depression. Families didn't have much money. Mothers and fathers couldn't find jobs to buy food, medicine, or warm clothes for their children. That was the time when Denver was born, on a cold January day on a cotton plantation in Louisiana. He was so small that his granddaddy would carry him in the front pocket of his overalls. Denver's family worked as sharecroppers, picking cotton on the man's plantation. The man let them live in a shack on the plantation. They had no electricity. They had no lights. They had no water. They were as poor could be. See? Denver's family didn't have a car. Sometimes they rode on a big wagon, pulled by mules, but they usually walked. Most of the food they ate came from their garden: corn, potatoes, carrots. The milk came from the man's cow. At Christmas, the man would give them a pig so they would have some meat. Even though he was a little boy, Denver worked with the rest of his family. He fed the chickens, he milked the cows, he picked wild blueberries. You see? There wasn't money for toys, so Denver would make toy trucks from old boards with bottle caps for the wheels. One day, Denver saw the man's son, Bobby, riding down the dirt road on a brand new bicycle. It was shiny and red. Denver had never seen a bicycle. He wanted one so much. He asked the man, "Can I do extra chores for you so I can earn enough money to buy a bike like Bobby's?" "Denver," the man said, "if you pick 100 pounds of cotton, I will buy you a new bicycle." See? Denver got up before the sun came up the next morning and picked cotton all day, sweat trickling down his forehead and into his eyes. Just as the sun was setting, he took his pillowcase full of cotton to the man's barn and put it on the scales. It only weighed 5 pounds. Day after day, he worked in the hot sun and picked cotton until his hands and knees were so sore and swollen that he could not pick any more. The man's son, Bobby, felt sorry for Denver and thought, I'll pick some cotton too, and sneak it into Denver's sack in the barn. With a friend helping him, Denver finally had 100 pounds of cotton. A few days later, the man said, I have a surprise for you, Denver. Come with me and Bobby down to the barn. When they got to the barn, Denver swung the big doors open. Inside was a brand new bike just for him. It was shiny and red with a rubber horn on the handlebars. Denver couldn't believe his eyes. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you, he hollered loud enough for everyone on the plantation to hear. He gave the man a big hug, and then he and Bobby rode off together on their bikes. It was the happiest day of Denver's life. Most kids go to school, but not Denver. He had to work in the cotton fields instead. He wanted to learn to read and write his name, but nobody in Denver's family knew how to teach him. Year after year, when the other kids headed off to school with their lunches and books, Denver stayed behind to work on the plantation. He picked the cotton, milked the cows, and fed the pigs and chicken. Denver wasn't very happy. He wanted to learn and to see new places and to have enough money to buy things of his own. But all that sharecroppers like Denver could do was stay on the farm and work. One day, when Denver was grown, he was walking to the man's store and saw a train stopped on the railroad tracks. I wonder where that train goes, Denver thought. He decided to jump on the train and find out. He was ready to see the world. Click, clack, click, clack, click, clack. The train sped along the tracks all day and all night. Denver rode in a boxcar that carried coal. He got covered in coal dust. Soon, his pretty brown skin looked as black as the coal. When the train finally stopped, Denver climbed down to the ground. He was in Fort Worth, Texas. Woohoo! I know Fort Worth. That's where my mother grew up. What a big place, Denver said, as he walked through the city looking up at all the tall buildings. There were shops everywhere and people walking very fast in every direction. Everyone he saw wore nice clothes and looked all clean and shiny. Denver was barefoot and wearing overalls covered in coal dust. He didn't need a mirror to know that he did not look like anyone else in this town. Denver had no money. He had no place to sleep. First, he dug through the trash cans near a restaurant for food. Then he slept in a cardboard box in the bushes under a bridge. He took a bath in the river. Denver tried to get a job in a store, but he didn't know how to read or write his name on the application. Are you a homeless man? The store owner asked. Denver didn't know what that meant. He'd never owned a home, but the man had given him a shack to live in. Now his home was a cardboard box. People weren't very nice to Denver. They wouldn't talk to him. They pretended they didn't see him. They said he was dirty and smelled bad and ate from garbage cans. No one would help him. Denver spent a long time living as a homeless man. Being lonely, poor, and hungry made him mean. He slept outside under bridges, on park benches, or near the front steps of churches. He hoped some of the nice church-going people would help him or give him some food, maybe a sandwich or a hot cup of coffee on a really cold day. But no one ever did. No one cares about me, he thought. At night, he would look up at the sky full of stars. Is there really a God up there, he wondered? Does he love me? There is a God. and he did love Denver. So he made a very strange thing happen. A nice lady named Miss Debbie had a dream about a homeless man. "I saw his face," Debbie told her husband Ron. "I saw a wise man who changed the city. Let's see if we can find the man in my dream." Debbie and Ron searched everywhere, but they couldn't find the man in Debbie's dream. Miss Debbie and Ron went every week to help at a homeless mission. They gave out food and clothes. They also taught homeless people how to read and write so they could get jobs. One night, as Ron and Miss Debbie served dinner at the mission, she saw a man from her dream. "What's your name?" she asked. "My name is Denver. I am a very bad man. Leave me alone." But Miss Debbie wasn't afraid. "You are not a bad man," she said softly. "You are a good man. God loves you, and so do I." Denver had never heard anyone say, "God loves you." He had never even heard someone say, "I love you." Her words made him feel less angry and lonely. That night, as he lay in his cardboard box, he thought about the nice lady with the kind voice. Is she an angel, he wondered? Denver and Miss Debbie became friends. She told him about God. She taught him how to read and write. Ron taught Denver how to paint pictures. He took Denver to art museums. They became friends. Pretty soon, Denver started to feel happy. He knew that he would never be alone again. God would always be with him. "I am not a bad man," he thought. "I am a good man. God loves me. God made me. God gave me a friend." Denver was so thankful that Miss Debbie and Ron loved him that he wanted to help other homeless people too. Denver and Ron traveled all across America asking everyone to help the homeless people in their cities. People read about Denver in the newspapers. They saw him on TV. He was even invited to the White House to meet the president. Denver told people about living in the cardboard box in the bushes under the bridge. He said that no one had ever loved him until Miss Debbie and Ron, and that they had introduced him to God and his love. Miss Debbie was different from anybody I had ever met, and I was different from anybody that she had ever met. But, he said with a big smile, I finally figured out that she was the same kind of different as me. Denver had learned that nobody can help everybody, but everybody can help somebody. And he wanted to spend the rest of his life helping as many somebodies as he could. So, the next time you see a homeless person or a poor person, think of Denver. Remember how he was able to change his life because Miss Debbie was kind to him and said, God loves you, and so do I. You can help somebody too. And I will show you a picture of Ron Hall and Denver Moore. They wrote this book together because they wanted everyone to know that we can all make a difference no matter how big or how small we are, and no matter how big or how small the task. Because remember what Denver said, nobody can help everybody, but everybody can help somebody. And I hope you'll remember that. Bye. I'll see you later.